Well, I found some footage from a few years back, and I thought I'd edit it all together here and tell you what's going on. So here's Huey McMillan in the fat truck. He's backing in here for a load. You can see it's a little bit of a downhill grade to where we're working. And, maybe a year earlier they put the road in and the fallers came and fell all this timber here. And it's pretty nice timber. Some are average size. Most of it's average size for the grapple on this machine. And if you notice the grapple, it doesn't have some real big points on it there. Sometimes when you get into lots of big wood, you have to get the welder to come up and put some nice big points on those grapples to grab into them. But if you just get the odd big one, then you gotta deal with it some other way. And we'll see later on in this video. So you see how you back in here? It used to have a different clip. Now, gotta make sure you get the right pin. That other pin is for the compensator. When you're helping the driver, you gotta make sure you get the right pin in place. So now, the driver's gonna hook up the hose, so I'm gonna help him by unhooking the safety chain on the stake here. It's got a strong enough spring, it'll just pop up into place itself. So when I help the driver, sometimes I get the hoses wrong and the air doesn't release.
Alrighty, ready to rock and roll!
You tell you he's all excited. Yeah, typical day on the West Coast. We're just happy it's not pelting down rain. So Ernie Zimmer, he'll put the first log out on the outside here, and that holds the stakes in place, holds the bunks. A lot of people put it first log right straight in the middle, and that'll hold the bunk in place. But everybody's got a different procedure, and you can see a little bit of snow on top of that hill. It's a little chilly today. That's why the hook tender, he's got a bonfire going down there. So they started at the far end, or maybe they started at this end. They're working down to the far end. Anyway, some of these logs are all bucked into length and some aren't. So we have to buck them up into the lengths that they need to be at, depending on what kind of log it is, what species. 40-foot logs are about the rest, the right length for most all species, 40 feet. Now there's a bunk load on, you see. Now this great big ugly one that Ernie has to lift up. He can't hold on to it with the grapple, so because it's so friggin' heavy. It's so heavy, I bet it'll sink when it hits the water. So anyway, you see Shane, he's gonna put these wedges in here to make up a choker. Choker just long enough to lift this log up off the ground and onto the truck. When I first started in the bush, all chokers were made by pouring Babbitt into the knob. You didn't make them on the fly like that. It was a new invention. See this hemlock? Holy moly, that's heavy log right there. Even a heavy pull for that grapple yarder. Then Ernie's gonna sweep off the road, sweep all the junk off the road there so the truck can back up. And then you see, you got the choker hooked to the grapple there, and he's gonna get it up into the air. And then 2 to back up. And Ernie will get this log up onto the bunk load. This is only one way of doing it. There's a few different ways of doing this. Yeah, these machines are just tough enough to get most logs on, but you get these big heavy hemlocks, well then you gotta do something like this. With that little short choker on there, it's pretty safe. Some of these, sometimes, you know, you get the log up in the air and then your grapple is just barely hanging on and it'll slip off and drop down and break something. It's a lot of tonnage in that log. This way here, guarantee nothing's gonna break. You know, the bunk's kind of turned a little bit sideways there, but I don't think it's gonna be a problem. You might just straighten that out later anyway. So now we have to go up the road where the rest of the logs are laying. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Trick is to find all the bunk log, or, you know, that'll fit from one stake to the other, then get all the short ones in between. There, get that thing nice and square on there. Here comes the fog. So these loads, they'll go down to the dryland sort and they spread them out and scale them and, you know, check them out, find out if they're crooked here or else rot over there. And you know, a lot of that stuff I can take care of up here by bucking it into the lengths and bucking the bad spots out. But you know, when they do it on the dryland sort, then they really, these guys know what they're doing. They're took a course on how to judge where you get the best value out of the timber and they buck it to the lengths. You know, there might be a piece of saw log in there and there might be a piece of pulp, and there's different grades of saw logs, and they can cut those out there. And then for the different markets, you know, if it's going to China or Japan or England or United States or domestic or whatever, you know, they all have a different grade or category. So, well, just looking it over and thinking, yeah, I think that's pretty well a good load right there. Now these trucks, you can't throw they're too big to throw the binders over top. So what Ernie will do is he put the grapple down alongside. He'll stick the end of the wrappers in that grapple, and then Ernie will lift them up over the load. Nobody has to get up on top of the load. You don't have to string out a rope to throw over there, or you don't have to climb up on the bank or anything to throw them over. Simplifies things pretty good. A lot of times Ernie has to get busy right away because the grapple yarder needs them. They've got a big pile of logs, or he can't pile there or something like that. He has to get busy, or there's another truck ready to come in and we have to sort through the wood and make sure there's enough wood ready for that next truck so you don't hold it up while you're bucking while the truck's waiting. Got to have a load ready to go. Doesn't always work that way, but you try to get it that way. Well, now I know what day I filmed this. My birthday was on November 7th. So, November 7th, a few years ago. You know, since then, there's been a lot of changes here. There's not too many VAT trucks around on the claim. They changed to those little highway trucks. They call the pickle trucks. And Western Forest Products pulled out of here and left what's left to the contractors. I've seen this done before with other big companies. When they get down to licking the edge of the bowl, they buzz off and leave it to the contractors to finish up with. And actually, Western has done it several times to other camps too. So it was no surprise. Yeah. But anyway, here comes the next truck. I don't think he's coming to us though. He's going up the hill to another loader. There's another loader and yarder up the hill there. So he's going to go up and get a load up there. And Huey, you see, he's pulling up this hill. When you're pulling a heavy load up the hill a little, even if it's a little grade like that, there's a danger that it would pull the compensator pin right out, pull the load apart. So you leave the compensator pin in when you're coming up the hill, and then when you get to the top of the hill, you pull the compensator pin out, and it's all good. Now, even though Huey knows I did it, he has to come back and check it for himself.
Oh, I see.
Just to make sure. You see, he says he's coming back to check his brakes, but, well, he does that anyway. But it's the driver's responsibility to make sure that that I didn't pull the wrong pin out, because it's been known to happen. Okay, here's another truck getting loaded. Lots of timber. Lots of first growth timber on Vancouver Island, that's for sure. And a huge amount in the form of parks. Wow, we got lots of parks on Vancouver Island. But as they're working through the rest of this first growth timber, there's lots of second growth timber coming up. Who knows, there might even be third growth timber somewhere along. Anyway, there's lots of timber to be logged. The world needs lumber. You go other places in the world, you don't see any trees growing, or if they are, you can't make lumber out of them very easy. So we have to supply timber to the world. It's just perfect. Oh, now here comes the load. Or is this a different load? That's a different load. It's got boomsticks on top. There's a couple ways to get the boomsticks out. You either make a load of boomsticks if you get a truck that you can stretch out the reach, and then you put about 15, 17 boomsticks on it, or else you put 3 or 4 on top. Put them way out like this, get the weight ahead. That works pretty slick. You hear those brakes complaining already. He has to put the water on the brakes to keep them cool, and then it's all good. downhill all the way to the beach. We're at quite an altitude up here. Catch you next time.